Thank you for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Today I want to talk about the court case, one of the court cases against Donald Trump. But before I do that, I have to point something out. This is absolutely stunning to me. I posted a video yesterday about the end of the Dallas Cowboys game and the controversial call. And that post, as you can see, has gotten 14,300 views, and I've gained 351 subscribers. That's almost a 50% increase in the subscribers on my channel. That absolutely blows my mind, and I have to thank every single one of you that has come to my channel and subscribed. I'm amazed. I don't understand it. I know there's a lot of channels on the YouTube that get way more views than this and have way more subscribers than I do. But for me, jumping from some 750 up to 1,200 is stunning. It's just amazing to me. So I just wanted to point that out and say thank you. Thank you to every single person that has subscribed to my channel. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for watching the videos. Thank you for commenting on them. Just thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, what you're looking at here is called Court Listener. It's a free service on the internet where you can actually view all or almost all of the documents in a case. This particular case is the one against Donald Trump, and I'm going to show you the indictment so you understand which one this is. This is the one where they're charging him with conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have any legal training. I do have some experience reading legal documents, but that doesn't make me anywhere as even close to an expert. So what you're going to hear now is just the opinion of a bystander, an amateur who doesn't know that much about the law. So keep that in mind. The first thing I notice is that count 2 and count 3 appear to be the same thing. Conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding and obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding. It smacks me, to me it smacks of piling on. But that's just me, okay? You may have a different opinion. Now, what I want to do, we're going to scroll down to the bottom here, as you can see, way down to the bottom, because as in most legal cases, there are tons and tons and tons of filings. Okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to go look at the last filing. This is a motion in limine by the U.S. as to Donald Trump. Now, before we do that, let's go look and see what is a motion in limine. Okay? Just so we're all on the same page. In U.S. law, a motion in limine is a motion discussed outside the presence of the jury to request that certain testimony be excluded. A motion in limine can also be used to get a ruling to allow for the inclusion of evidence. Okay? So, but because this is the government, what they're asking is to exclude evidence. Now, I'm not going to read this whole document to you. But if you scroll through this document and read it carefully, basically what the government is asking the court to do is to not allow Donald Trump to introduce any evidence at all about the January 6th event. Now, you think about that for a minute. This trial is claiming that he committed felonies on January 6th that caused what happened on January 6th. But the government doesn't want him to be able to introduce any evidence about January 6th. Now, if you know anything about the trials that have already taken place and the convictions that have taken place, you know that the government also, in those cases, demanded the same thing, that they not be allowed to introduce any evidence. And they insisted that the persons on trial, the defendants, were not allowed to have access to the videotapes because of national security concerns. And now we know, now that the videotapes have been released, that they contain exculpatory evidence. Now, there's a rule in the law called the Brady Rule. It was established by the Supreme Court. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the case was Brady versus Maryland, but you can look it up. Just look up the Brady Rule, and you'll be able to find the case, and you can read the case if you're that interested in getting into the weeds. But the Brady Rule basically says that prosecutions must turn over all evidence of an exculpatory nature to the defendant before the trial. And when they exclude that evidence from the trial, the verdict can be overturned. So I expect to see in the coming days and months and weeks, and the law the law is a very slow and ponderous process. So it will probably take years, maybe 2 or 3 years before it's already finally done. But I expect to see lawyers getting many of these prosecutions and convictions of January 6 participants overturned due to the Brady Rule, because the government clearly withheld exculpatory evidence. Now what they're trying to do is withhold similar evidence in Trump's case. They want to try him on what's going on what went on January 6th and claim that he was the force behind it, that he caused it, and yet he's not allowed to introduce any evidence to show that what they're saying is not true. He's not allowed to introduce any arguments or frame any questions to advance a theory of selective or vindictive prosecution, or otherwise improperly inject politics into the trial. And you can read, all the government's reasoning and their citations of law and all that stuff. But, the bottom line is they're trying to tie him into a knot. The court should prohibit the defendant from trying to baselessly inject politics into the trial in the name of impeaching the investigation. Well, it's been obvious from the get-go that this is a political trial. But he's not allowed to argue that. He's not allowed to argue that they are that they are attacking him from a political perspective. Now, keep in mind, this is just the government's motion. The judge has to rule on it. So that's not to say that the judge will say, yeah, you can have all of this. The court should prohibit the defendant from arguing to the jury any legal issues properly reserved for the court. And there's an extensive amount of argumentation in here that they're saying they seem to be terrified of jury nullification. What jury nullification is, the jury says, hey, we don't care what the law says. We're going to find this person not guilty anyway. Now, I've never understood why that's a bad thing. Because regardless of what the law says, juries of your peers should be able to say, nah, dude, this isn't right. You shouldn't be doing this prosecution, and we're not going to hand it to you. I don't get the arguments that the lawyers make about jury nullification. Basically, what they're saying is that the juries are supposed to be triers of facts, and the judge is the trier of the law. And that's true. It is the judge's position to say what the law says. But where does it say it isn't the jury's position to say, we don't care what the law says, the law is wrong. In this case, we're going to find him not guilty. I don't understand what's wrong with that. Maybe one of you people who's a lawyer or a trained legal person can answer that question for me satisfactorily. But you're going to have to do some work, because I've read about this a lot. And I just completely disagree with the idea that jury nullification is a bad thing. I think juries can be a good cure for bad law. The court should prohibit evidence, questions, or argument regarding potential consequences of the defendant's criminal case or conviction. In other words, he's not allowed to talk about the fact that he's running for president right now, and this trial and a conviction in this trial would affect his run for the presidency. He can't talk about that. The court should exclude evidence regarding agency preparation for and responses on January 6th. What? Basically, what they're saying is they don't want Trump's lawyers to be able to introduce any evidence that the Department of so-called Justice prepared for or made any responses on January 6th, like undercover agents who stirred up the crowd, which we now know is true. He's not allowed to introduce that according to them, or they don't want him to be allowed to. The judge, again, has to decide the case, and she has to decide the merits of each one of these requests. So they're not done deals, but given the apparent bias of this particular judge, it's likely that she will rule in their favor on every one of these. The court should exclude evidence regarding purported undercover officers or government sources at the Capitol. Okay, think about this for just a minute. What is Trump's argument? I told my people to go protest. I did not tell them to riot. The reason they rioted is because undercover agents stirred up the crowd and got them to riot. That's his argument. And it's a legitimate argument, but they don't want the judge to allow him to make that argument. Oh, he's not allowed to say that there was any influence on the crowd that was separate from his influence. You see what I'm saying? They're claiming this was entirely his fault, and no one else did anything to affect the actions of people on January 6th. Pure BS. The court should exclude evidence of alleged foreign influence. What? What if there was foreign influence? You're not allowed to put that into the trial? Come on. And they're claiming that he hasn't provided any proof of it. Well, guess what? The defense doesn't have to provide the prosecution with any proof of their arguments. They don't have to provide the court. They have to provide the prosecution with a list of their witnesses, but they don't have to provide the court with a list of their strategy or what they're going to do. The court should exclude evidence of post-crime changes to election law. Okay, first of all, they're not post-crime until he's convicted. Okay? And secondly, if the election laws were changed afterwards, is it not legitimate to question why? I mean, this whole thing stinks of them just trying to tie him up in such a tight ball that he has no argument left so that they can get the conviction that they want. The court should prevent the defendant from introducing or eliciting other improper evidence. Well, there's a vagary for you. This goes on and on. I'll put the links in the description. I'm not going to bore you any further with this, but just suffice it to say that what we have on our hands is a clearly political prosecution where the prosecutor is pushing to get the trial done before the election because they're scared to death that Donald Trump will get elected. And I think there's a good chance he will, although I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Democrats will do everything in their power to prevent it, including cheat, which they did in the 2020 election. Everybody who has a brain in their head knows that. And if you don't think it's true, you're an idiot. You haven't read the evidence. You haven't looked at all about what's gone on. You haven't seen anything, or you've seen it and you've just said, that's baloney. Yeah, you have every right to do that, but you're still full of baloney. All right? It's just, when I was a young man, I used to believe fervently in our justice system. I used to believe that if you were arrested, you were guilty. It's taken many years for me and much reading and understanding about people who've been innocent, who've been convicted, to understand that prosecutors often don't play fair, often hide evidence from the defense, often lie in court about what took place, and they never suffer any consequences of it. We're supposed to have the greatest justice system in the world. Well, right now, we're far from that. We have perhaps the most corrupt justice system in the world. And that has to change, or America will not survive. And if you know me at all, you know the one thing I want more fervently than anything else when it comes to the world is the survival of my country. Now, God is way ahead of that, but when it comes to America, I want America to survive, I want America to prosper, and I want Americans to be free from all this government meddling and influence and corruption and falsehood and lying, dirtbag, evil people in our government. I could go on and on. You know I could. You've seen me before. You know I can do this for hours, but I don't want to waste your time, so I'll stop now. And as for you, my viewers, and the many wonderful viewers who have joined my channel in the last day, amazing number that have joined, I pray that each and every one of you will live abundantly, that you will be healthy and that you'll have a long life, and that God will keep you safe from harm. And I pray that He will do the same for every person that you love. And I pray that you will be anxious for nothing, but in all things, through prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, you will make your requests known to God. And the peace that passes all understanding will keep your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. This is the Vietnam Era Vet, out.